Welcome back to the Italy Chronicles. Today we're in Venice with Luisella Romeo.
Bravissimo.
Luisella Romeo of See Venice Tours, talking art, history, and how to experience the city. Luisella, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So, Venetians, they say, are a dying breed. You were actually born and bred in Venice. How does it feel to be Venetian?
Oh, that's interesting. I feel a sort of a panda bear, you mean? No, I mean, I love the city, and every time I left the city I felt there was something missing. So I think that being Venetian is being Venetian anywhere you go. And the fact that I always looked for cities next to a river, to a lake, to a sea, to water, is something that belongs to my DNA. So I would say you are Venetian anywhere you are.
So the water runs through your veins.
Yes.
As a native, what do you love most about the city?
I think that what I like most, let me think, could be the fact that it's very international. Maybe too much, considering we have reached the 22 million people visiting a year. But the fact that, who said so? I think it was the manager of Harry's Bar. He said, you don't need to travel the world, you can come to Venice to see the world, which is what I think is true.
So Venice attracts a lot of tourists, as you say. As a professional guide,
Yes.
what would you recommend to first-time visitors, and when is the best time to visit?
So I think that the fact I would, first of all, recommend is do not rush if it's possible. I know that the time is always short, maybe because of budget, maybe because you have to go back to work, but please don't rush. So plan at least 2-3 nights in Venice. This will allow you to get a first idea of the city, where everyone goes and where the history prevails, the center of the town, the main attractions, but will also help you understand that in Venice there's so much to see, and there's so much that it's not St. Mark's Square, that your list of things to see will get longer and longer while you start ticking the things to see.
And what time of year would you recommend?
What time of the year? That's a good question. I think the best weather you definitely find at late spring and also early autumn, fall. But then it's really busy. So I would not come for sure in August because it's very humid, very hot. And I would consider coming during the winter time, so like January or also December, so when most of the cruise ships no longer reach the town, when the city is quiet.
Now, there has been a lot of talk of limiting the number of tourists coming to Venice. How do you feel about that?
I think it's impossible. We can agree on one thing with travel agents to make sure that they do not bring too many groups at the same time in the city. So, for instance, I will not mention the travel agent because they're very good, but a week ago we had 7 groups of 30 students each at the same time in St. Mark's Square at 11 doing their 2-hour long tour of Venice and ready to leave by 4 p.m. the same day. So if this is for everyone, if it does not get spread throughout the day or throughout the year, I think it's uncomfortable also for the people visiting. So my advice is we cannot check the number of people, but at least try to figure out how to spread the ones that come and visit Venice. Anyway, there are excellent projects. I needed to think about it, what their name is, that were proposed to limit the number of tourists visiting, and they've never been taken into consideration, so it's a political choice.
You started See Venice Tours in 2000 and have
Yes.
led hundreds of tours since then. What surprises visitors the most about Venice, and what surprises you the most about visitors?
So I think that what surprises visitors is the fact that you can live beautifully without cars and without bicycles and without wheels. So the idea of walking, this is something that surprises everyone. For the ones that don't have problems walking, of course. What surprises me about visitors is that sometimes, not but the people in general, that sometimes it's clear they come here without any preparation. So they come here without planning, without reading before what it's like. So for instance, today we had a long line outside St. Mark's Church, a lot of people with backpacks, and it's been since 9/11 that you're not allowed to get in with backpacks in St. Mark's Church. Okay, second thing, the church was closed, and they did not know that they were on a line for a church that was closed.
So what kind of preparation do you recommend?
I think that it's difficult to find the time before you travel, as many work very hectically to read, but yes, make sure that you go through also the internet and dial Venice and try to find what Venice visitors have said before you, and of course read my blog.
Okay, so talking about your blog, tell us a little about your tours and what visitors experience exploring the city with you.
So I do a lot of tours of the center of a town, orientation tours. I've specialized in Jewish history. I've a constant need to widen my offer. So I run any kind of walking tours or museums or themes, but little by little. And I'm also running accessible Venice tours, which could be of interest. I try to take people to museums where people do not go often, such as Palazzo Grimani, the Querini Stampaglia, the Scuola Carmini, the Fravi Church, the School of San Rocco. I mean, we have so many museums that are almost running the risk of closing down that I try to promote with my activity. And people are always happy to be taken away from the crowds. And one more thing I've more and more offered, arts and crafts for people. So human heritage versus the building.
How long do tours last?
At least 2 hours.
And is there a limit to the number of tourists that can go on your tours?
So you mean how long a tour?
The number
maximum.
of people. Yeah.
Oh, how many people? No, I'm happy also to take around 20 people around if this is the group. I don't mind. I think it's nicer if we keep it around 8 maximum.
Where do you like to go when you're not working and you want to explore Venice?
Oh, well, the thing is that as my job requests, I do know a lot about the city. I try to basically take photos of the places I know, and photos help a lot. Focus on details that you have missed. So it's a sort of exercise I do myself.
Do you have any tips for photographers? The city is obviously very photogenic.
Yes, it is.
How can we take it seems like you could point your camera in any direction and take a good picture. Do you have any tips?
So I think time in the day is important. So they say sunset is beautiful, sundown they say, but I don't like waking up too early. I know, but then the light is amazing. Sometimes when, even at 8 a.m., you see reflections that you cannot see, the light you cannot see afterwards, or the fog. So wait for atmospheric events. Yeah, and do not take pictures of the people unless they are asked. That's a good tip, I think. Venetians don't like being photographed too much because they feel like, what are you taking a picture of me, as if I'm the last Venetian, or
stealing their soul.
Yeah, but especially because they feel as if you are taking a picture of somebody that will disappear soon, you know, this
preserving.
Yes. Yeah.
So talking about Venetians, is there a particular Venetian character?
I think that there are different generations right now. So we have still the very elderly ones and the ones that believe in knowing how to make things by hand. And unfortunately, there are also younger generations that do have this belief. And then we have all the people that chose to become Venetians. And sometimes they care for the city more than the ones that were born here.
That's nice.
People that studied here at the university. So people that chose to come really care.
Yeah, I met a woman earlier, Jane Caporal, who runs Row Venice.
Yes.
And she's an adopted Venetian too. She's been here 25 years. So.
See. That's very true. I have a lot of friends that come from Sicily, from Lombardy, from Tuscany, from also my colleagues. No, I mean we have almost 300 guides that took the exam to become tour guides here, that are not necessarily people born here. So from Russia, from Ukraine, from China, from Germany, from France, from Argentina, and they live here and they are as Venetians. I mean, if you check my DNA, my family has been here since the middle of the 1700s, but Venetians are like New Yorkers. Okay, if you check our DNA, it's a mess, and I'm happy it is.
Going back to guides, becoming a guide, what is that process and how hard is it?
So it used to be very hard, as there was an exam specialized in history, geography, art, urban planning, architecture of Venice, and for a couple of years already the law changed, the law has changed, so anyone taking the exam anywhere can be a guide anywhere. So technically you're talking to a guide that could take you to Rome and Florence. At that time I took the exam, we had more than 800 people applying for the license and only 26 got the license after several moments of the same exam. So it was very selective. Now it's no longer. So the risk is that you end up with somebody that has not done specific studies.
So how do you go about picking a guide?
That's very difficult, but a couple of years ago I started with a few more colleagues this experience, this new project called The Best Venice Guides, featuring the guides that took the exam as we used to. And we try to promote ourselves on the internet, so to help people that arrange their tour online in Venice to know that there can be a choice. You can choose among our quality or you can choose different guides. As long as you know who you're picking up, then it's your choice.
Great. Finally, can you give our audience some tips on some gastronomic tips on where they might have a real Venetian
So I mean,
experience?
we have to be curious when you travel in Italy, no, and not to stick to the idea that Italy is the country of pizza or lasagna. As especially Venice, we don't allow open flames, so no brick oven for pizza, as we fear fires. So be ready to taste the flavors that are also looking, food that is looking weird, such as the cuttlefish cooked in its own ink, or the marinated sardines, or the seafood in general. Why not also meat? I mean, we have the famous liver with onions. I think, however, it could be of interest. I personally chose to run this tour on the history of coffee and chocolate, as these exotic drinks reached Europe in the 16th century and became popular because of Venice, because of Spain. So these two countries, Venice on one side and Seville on the other side, were intermediators to bring into Europe exotic drinks. So the history of coffee and tasting of coffee and chocolate is an experience that I would recommend in Venice. It seems it's not Venetian, but Venetian was the capital of coffee. In the 18th century, we had a cafe every 500 inhabitants. Well, we had a Mardi Gras that was lasting very long, so either you drank a caffeine or you risked to lose so much money gambling for 5 months in a row.
So it's a little bit like Starbucks in New York City today.
See, I mean, Venice was also Broadway, if you like, or Las Vegas, and caffeine was very much needed, and chocolate was part of our welcoming ceremony in private, beautiful palazzos.
Great. Well, thank you, Luisa, for
For
sharing your insights on Venice with us, and see you next time on the Italy Chronicles.
Looking forward to it. Grazie mille.